Salutations, welcome to another episode of Bonus Stage Plus. We are almost at the weekend, but before we dive straight into it, we got news, we got trailers, and we're showing off the multiplayer expansion to one of the best games, honestly, of this year, and I can't wait to talk about it. We're flipping the script on a couple of things tonight, and what else do we have on tab, Renzo?
Well, coming up on the show, 2K is in some piping hot water after a post-release to NBA 2K21. The devs behind Call of Duty Mobile are giving us an update on the state of the game and its future as it is celebrating its first year anniversary, and how Sony could be using online updates to make changes to your hardware. Don't worry, it's not as sketchy as it sounds. But what trailers are we watching today?
We got something that involves rocket-powered cars, soccer, and Ghostbusters, and more Call of Duty stuff. And yes, it's become a running thing here on the show. We criticize the series a lot, but we gotta admit, they make good trailers. But before anything else, where can we find you on the internet?
It is at Renzosaurus for me, at 995PlayFM for all the accounts of the station, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, even on YouTube with a slightly different channel name. You know what, Billy, I realized this is the Bonus Stage Plus episode 24. So if we were a network TV show, this would kind of be like our season finale. Does one of us have to die by the end of this? What's happening? Am I betraying you? You betraying me?
I don't know. We might even just end on a cliffhanger.
There you go.
Yes, we've both been watching too much TV. But, of course, before we just go straight into news, if you want to find me on the internet for some reason, trust me, it'll be fun. That is it_Burns, Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. I've been playing a lot of Resident Evil lately because, of course, it is October, the month of spooks and other stuff. And not just Resident Evil, but I got a whole plate of spooky games on my plate. And with that, hey, let's dive into some news. It's a known thing that the Philippines is basketball country. We love our local leagues, and we also love the NBA, and we love video games based on the NBA. And, well, 2K Games is in a bit of a pickle right now. Renzo, you got the details on this?
Oh, yeah. Well, right now, the Mamba Forever edition of NBA 2K21 goes for over 4,000 pesos. I checked on Datablix. That's a lot of money. Similarly, in the U.S., the game retails for about $60. A hefty price tag. The basketball fans all over the world are pretty okay with spending for the latest flagship NBA game, as it is almost a ritual or a yearly tradition for these to pick up the 2K game. However, get this. Over a month after its release, folks, 2K has now slid in unskippable ads during loading screens. Oh man, it was first reported by Australian video game news outlet Survivor, and they did show that unskippable ads have begun to pop up all across all platforms of NBA 2K21. So not just the PS4 version, but even all the way up until the Switch version are getting these unskippable ads, which is ridiculous for a game that literally people paid money, and in some cases a lot of it, just to play. Now, if you don't play 2K, you must be wondering, okay, yeah, sure, ads are sick, or ads are like, gross and not fun at all, but aren't they played during loading screens, so you won't be doing much during the commercial or loading screen anyway? Okay, so aside from the point that unskippable ads or any ads of any kind shouldn't be in paid games, the loading screens are typically the place where you'd be able to make changes to your team's lineup, positioning, or strategy. So you won't even get to do any of this until the ad you're watching is done.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
That's super yikes. And even worse, 2K did the same thing last year for NBA 2K20 and got just as much rightfully vicious backlash.
Not a good look.
Here. Double yikes, Billy. Double yikes.
Now, my feelings on, real-world products existing in games is a little more nuanced. I would say that if it's a sports game, and then if you have like the barrier showing like, of course, logos of real-world products, and since this is something based in the real world, I don't mind. There's a little immersion in that. But of course,
that's realistic.
I draw the line when, of course, I'm just trying to get into my game and I have to watch, a 15 to 30 second ad of something that maybe I might not buy because I'm just far away from that target market.
Yeah, and we're used to these ads showing up in mobile games, of course, because these are games that you get for free. Because, again, that is how these apps make money if they do offer it to you for free, which we don't mind because, obviously, of course, you have to make money selling a video game. And what better way to do that if you have no way of charging than by running microtransactions or by running ads. But if you are a huge publisher, makers of the biggest basketball game year in and year out, charging $60 for your game, don't run ads in your game, man, and much less unskippable ads. Like, it's just disrespectful.
Yeah, I mean, logos on the court are fine, like licensed shoes, but we gotta draw the line somewhere, right? And let's wash this out. Let's talk about more news. At this point, everyone and their mother knows that Call of Duty is easily one of gaming's biggest franchises. And, well, I did say everyone and their mother, and pretty recently, you might have seen on a recent episode, after being away from the series for so long, I had so much fun playing the Black Ops Cold War beta, and you could just hear it in my voice as I was playing. But aside from just dominating, of course, mainstream platforms, we're talking, of course, consoles and PC, you haven't heard much of Call of Duty making waves on mobile, right? Because other franchises or series would be, taking that big share of the pie, but they've been making some big moves lately. Of course, Call of Duty has been on mobile for about a year, and to mark that, they actually had a pretty recent interview. Got more details on this, man.
Yeah, so they did celebrate their first year anniversary at the start of October, and along with it, the Season 11, if I'm not mistaken, trailer dropped for Call of Duty Mobile. And what a year it's been for Activision. Over 300 million downloads worldwide. They've doubled their map pool and have added over 25 multiplayer game modes since release. Did you know that there are 27 multiplayer game modes in COD Mobile?
That's a lot.
That's a lot of game modes.
I only bother with, like, the super basic ones.
Yeah, well, everyone's asking what's next for COD Mobile. Well, GameSpot did sit down with COD Mobile General Manager Matt Lewis and shared some plans for the future of COD Mobile. He said, new maps and modes, new characters and weapons, obviously, and I quote, new features to take social competitive gameplay to some totally new places. Now, those are some pretty big words coming from someone who works on Call of Duty, which is a game that already does push the boundaries and limits of competitive gameplay to begin with. So in what ways are they going to be doing this? We're not exactly sure right now, but if that is what the general manager is promising, then we can take their word for it. But if they're wondering about zombies, a lot of people have been asking, when is COD Mobile going to be getting the zombies mode that, of course, was made popular by Black Ops and World at War when it did originally come out? Here's what he said. He said, we don't have an update for zombies right now, but zombies isn't something we've forgotten about. Recently, our focus has been on making sure multiplayer feels world-class, and then on improving our Battle Royale mode, first by adding the Alcatraz map from Black Ops 4, and then by polishing and building up our original isolated map. So, if you're still on the fence about whether or not to give COD Mobile a try, well, you have all the time in the world, as there seems to be nothing but more content for the future of this mobile shooter. I mean, I know Rami plays it of the Carpool Club, Anton of the On The Go Show plays it, even Denise plays it as well, and I know Jello also first thing in the morning does. Maybe we went to a tournament like last month.
We could have our own little PlayFM esports team at this point, right?
And they would dominate us for sure.
Yes, but I'm just amazed at the kind of work that they're doing, especially taking something as massive, of course, in terms of scope and market share, and of course file size, and just cramming it all into your phone. You said that they just recently added some maps, they got more stuff planned along the way, people are asking for zombies, and while it's not something that they're doing in the immediate future, they want to do it down the line, because there's, speaking from a business standpoint, that's a lot of money on the table too, right? And I do know some people, maybe myself included, that will play Call of Duty just for zombies, because it is such a good side mode. Actually, it has sort of sprung off into its own thing with its own narrative and such, but that's in the mainline series. But yeah, bring it on. And the future does look bright, so we'll keep tabs on more developments for COD Mobile. And with that, how about some hardware news?
All right, folks, heading into more news and hardware news. In fact, this one is coming from the world of Sony. And of course, with the release of the PS5 coming up, we're getting more and more information about how Sony is planning to, well, not only support games in the future and past games, but also on the hardware side of things. How is Sony going to be revolutionizing some adjustments, or at least bringing some new things to the table in terms of online updates on the hardware, Billy?
Now, since consoles made the leap to, of course, the HD generation and have been getting more and more complex hardware, they've been making more noise. And, of course, the PS4 is no stranger to this. If I play something as demanding as maybe Monster Hunter World or Ghost of Tsushima, that thing takes off like a jet engine. If you ever see me on stream, it really whirs up. It's like actually noisier than my electric fan. However, Sony VP Yasuhiro Otori says that they're going to do something a little different with the PS5, and they're going to do it through, of course, software updates that you can, yes, download, because, come on, everything's online these days. And what they're planning to do is control the PS5's fans' speed through those updates. So it's going to be on a game-to-game basis, and the more graphically complex it is, of course, they're going to have the fan work harder. And given that there was a recent teardown video where they just take apart an entire PS5 and just show you its guts, that fan is huge. They have lots of cooling options, a pretty big heat sink too, so of course, keeping your system cool and in working condition is a priority for them. And according to a lot of reports from people who've been able to preview the hardware, they say that it's a lot more quiet than the PS4. And that, in and of itself, is quite the selling point, if you ask me. Because as much as I love my PS4, it can get noisy. Because sometimes I do play at like 3 a.m. and I live with my brother. And I do get worried, like, this thing's noisy. It might wake him up. So
right,
that's an actual thing. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of our audience have had that concern before. You just want to play, but not wake up everyone within earshot, because that thing can get noisy. How about you?
That being said, I think we also have to remind people that you got to give your console some room to breathe. I feel like a lot of people make the same mistake with their PS4s, even all the way to the PS2 era. You know, they don't either give it enough room for air to circulate around the console, leading to the fan having to work extra hard to keep the system cool during the more performance-heavy, demanding games. So be sure to, well, number one, don't place your console on your bed, or don't place it on up against a wall, or just make sure that you know where the vents of your PlayStation or any of your consoles are, and make sure that it's at least facing an outward direction toward the airflow of, let's say, your aircon, or for example, your electric fan. And don't mistake this Sony optimization of the fans for the PS5 to mean that you can get away with stuffing it in crammier places. If anything, the PS5 will be working extra hard to be running these next gen or soon to be current gen games. So best to be reminded of those tips to avoid console hardware problems, red ring of death, or possibly even fires. So let's just avoid all that, folks.
And, as they say, like this old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and that, that also applies to hardware. And with that, I do believe we have some trailers to watch, my friend. It is Bonus Stage Plus, and it's time to watch some spooky trailers. I know it's October, and I'm really milking it for all it's worth, but come on, it just so happened that our entire lineup for today is Halloween themed. How can I not get into the spirit of the season? And up first is for Rocket League, which, by the way, we need to remind you, free to play, cross-play, with pretty much every platform it's on. And how can you say no to that? We do have some content coming our way, and Renzo's here to talk about it.
All right, so the Halloween event for Rocket League is coming up, and we're super duper excited about it. It's going to be called Haunted Hollows. And yes, the return of the Ecto 1 is here, folks, from last year's Radical Summer event. And if you're wondering, what's the Ecto 1? Well, it's the car from Ghostbusters, literally the car from Ghostbusters. And while it is making its return, there are some new additions to the lineup as well. We do have a bunch of Slimer-related cosmetic items and even a car, if I'm not mistaken, and also Also, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, all from the Ghostbusters movie, will also be making an appearance, and it's going to be exciting. I personally love Halloween season for video games, just because you get all the cool skins, you get all the cool maps, you get the horror game modes, and you get stuff like this where they cross over with something as cool as the Ghostbusters. Now, as for what else remains within this trailer, I think it's best to let them see it themselves.
And by the way, this is just but a bite-sized appetizer for the rest of the trailers that we have for you today, because, like we said, everything's gonna be pretty spooky today. Roll trailer. I'm going to give you a bit of full disclosure right now, not just for you, Renzo, but just for everyone watching this. And this is something that's actually been going on in the back of my head. Now, of course, we work in radio, we cover, our respective topics, but in an alternate reality where I wasn't doing, gaming news and other stuff related to it, I would definitely be covering paranormal topics. Like ghosts, UFOs, anything supernatural, because I'm also really into that. And please don't find me weird, because it's a thing that I've sort of grew up with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, hey, it's not really out of the mainstream anymore. You have stuff like BuzzFeed Unsolved, you have all these documentaries on Netflix, so there's no shame in wanting to be, or at least pursuing, a fantasy life as a ghost hunter. But hey, you no longer have to fantasize anymore, because this new one, Phasmophobia, has been making waves not only with Twitch streamers and, of course, YouTube content creators with its 4-player ghost hunting co-op gameplay. It's also making waves in the local community as well, as, of course, Filipinos. We love anything related to horror. We love horror movies. We love horror games. We love everything all about it. And if you want proof of that, just go go back into a time machine and try watching a horror movie in a Filipino cinema. You'll know exactly what we mean when you hear the reactions. But this game is extremely fun and unsettling at the same time. I personally got to play it a bunch of times already with some friends. And while, yes, the early access aspect of it makes it so that some parts of it can be a little buggy and unrefined, the core gameplay in itself is so much fun and is such a good vessel for ghost hunting horror that a lot of people don't even mind anymore. So it's really fun, really scary, and it really makes you, it really puts you in the shoes of a ghost hunter with all the tools you have at your disposal, with everything you have to do, and the fact that it even uses your actual microphone to call on the ghosts using key phrases and keywords that certain ghosts will recognize makes it that much cooler.
So I can use the question, "Hey demons, it's your boy."
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
But yes, Renzo's been playing a lot of it lately, and I can't wait to try it out myself. And since you did mention early access, maybe I would like to argue that that early access jank is actually part of its charm. Being rough around the edges, and some things just not either rendering or clipping into things right. Because I have received a ton of screenshots from friends in our group chats, just of people with their bodies half through walls or something, or just weirdly clipping. And given the context or the setting of the game, it kind of makes perfect sense. So yes, this game's been out for a while now, but just in case you have been living under a rock and haven't heard of it, here's the trailer for Phasmophobia.
George, I've arrived at the location.
All right, be careful, and let me know as soon as you find anything.
Nothing. Okay, I've checked the water and it's dirty.
That means we're dealing with either a spirit or a wraith. You're not done yet, though. We still need more information.
It's possible the ghost is in the basement. I'll use the spirit box to get a confirmation.
Okay, if you don't get a reading, then look around with a UV light for anything out of the ordinary.
Is anyone in this room? Can you give me a sign? Got a reading on the spirit box.
All right, it looks like we're dealing with a spirit. Hey, your vitals aren't looking good. You need to pack up and leave as soon as you can. You're risking your life from this point on.
We aren't done with Call of Duty yet, because of course we talked about it earlier on in the show, but Warzone is getting a really cool Halloween update. It should be playable by the time you see this episode, but of course, if you haven't checked it out yet, here's a teaser of what's to come. And what are we talking about, Renzo?
Okay, well, we are talking about the upcoming Halloween horror update of Call of Duty. I believe it is called The Haunting at Verdansk, which is a very recognizable area to many Call of Duty players. And hey, move over, Bly Manor. We're talking about Verdansk now, because The Haunting does seem like it's going to be taking some elements from already established horror franchises. Now, I don't want to ruin the surprise for
franchises.
In case you want to be surprised watching the trailer yourselves, but we'll tell you now, you will recognize these people 100% if you've played maybe a fighting game recently, or if you've at least watched certain, or you know what, I don't want to ruin it for anybody by giving hints. Just check out the trailer and swear it's gonna be pretty sick, as we expect Call of Duty trailers to be.
And like we said, we hurl a lot of criticisms toward the series, but we gotta admit, whoever's in charge of cutting those trailers just really nails it on the head, because they got the horror movie vibe down. Now, of course, Call of Duty is easily one of the broiest, if that's even a term, series out there. But, yeah, they put it into the perspective of one dude whose whole unit got wiped out by these guests, and is now back to take revenge. They took my brothers from me, and all that stuff. So before we actually, you know, slip up and let loose who it actually is, come on, please roll that trailer.
In my eyes,
It was supposed to be a standard op.
indisposed,
It was anything but.
in disguises no one knows.
I still say nothing on earth can scare me.
Hides the fear, hides the snare. This in my despair.
But This was straight from hell. Go check that out. Go, go, go! Come on, let's go! Kill that fucking thing! Roddy, come on! Roddy, no!
Hello. Do you want to play a game?
Let's go, let's go! The bastards took my brothers. That's why I'm going back.
Oh, son, won't you come? Won't you come?
All right, folks, and now time for the little bit of a game showcase that we've had. We talked about this a couple of weeks back when the trailer dropped, and we are talking about the huge update to Ghost of Tsushima, probably one of Billy's favorite games from this year, and the big update called Legends that was dropped. When did it drop? Just a couple of days ago? Yesterday?
Just this past weekend.
There you go.
Yeah.
So fresh off the update block, and we are talking about some huge updates. So it adds 2-player story missions and 4-player survival missions. You got additional raid mode. You got a 3-party adventure for 4 players, and it's just like a bunch of new content that is going to be rolling out with Legends, and I believe will also be coming out in the following weeks after its release. Well, Billy, you got a chance to play it. What were your first impressions, and were all of your expectations met?
Okay, here's the full disclosure. We've gone through the main story track for 2-player co-op, and as of today, we're still trying to navigate through some server issues and matchmaking to get a full stack of 4 for the survival mode. But what I can tell you now is, man, they made an already great game even better, because here's the thing. This is something that we didn't really ask for. Like, Ghost of Tsushima on its own was already a solid open world game, and this is coming from someone who's already generally burnt out on open world stuff, and for them to add something as substantial as this is quite the cherry on top. And I thought it would just be, okay, maybe it's going to be fun for a weekend or maybe an afternoon, but this is something that I might actually spend more hours in.
That's crazy because, we did mention that this is a free update. It is a free add-on to the game. So they don't charge you for a huge DLC with all these new missions and story modes. It really is something that they give to the player base for free, which is amazing, number one. But number two, I did want to ask you, the 2-player story missions, are they similar in mechanics and in gameplay terms as the single-player missions? Did they really just kind of copy-paste some of the story missions, reskin them, and make it appropriate for 2 players? Or are there some unique 2-player mechanics that are used in the game?
Yes and no. Well,
Okay.
Yeah, of course. It's a reskin. That's why if you download the update, the file itself, the patch, isn't going to be all that huge. Just only a couple gigs. And, we constantly complain about games just like giving you updates that are just basically the same size as the installation itself.
Sorry.
But it's a fairly manageable update, and the reskin that they do is actually quite phenomenal. I like the change in art direction because most of this takes place in the spirit realm, so everything is spooky, going in line with Halloween again, and Well, as for two-player mechanics, they did something really interesting. So, of course, in the single-player campaign, you play as Jin, and he's got all these skills. Now, what happens is you've got 4 classes, and each of them cover a certain aspect of Jin's ghost abilities. So, you got the Hunter, who is basically an archer, long-range, sniper type. You have the Assassin, who's like super stealthy, deals high damage in single hits, but is basically a glass cannon. You have the Samurai, who's your tank, and the Ronin is your support class. It's really built for co-op, and they added in a few things that will make it take advantage, of course, multiplayer. Like, you have certain enemies that you need to kill in nearly the same time. You have to really coordinate in order to take down. There are certain enemies with elemental attunements that you need to power up your weapons with before you can take them down, and they'll usually come in 1 or 2, of course, more than one color. So if you're playing a 2-player game, then of course you have 2 separate elemental attunements. Each of you will have to power up with different elements and cover each other's backs. The opportunities for like really cool co-op moments are there. I was able to capture a couple during my stream with a good friend of mine, and you're gonna see that somewhere up there. Anyway, I mean, you can just tell just by how giddy I sound right now that I really, really like this expansion. And this is someone who doesn't bother much with multiplayer.
Yeah, okay, so, well, now that, we have sung its praises, the multiplayer mode, I'm pretty sure it isn't something that you can just choose in the main menu. How do people who may have already just gotten it, haven't hopped into Legends yet, how do they access this multiplayer content? I know I think they made, like, they added in an NPC that you have to talk to kind of enter multiplayer mode. How does that work?
Well, you gotta find this guy named Gyozen on the map. Well, he's gonna be marked there for you. However, speaking of the main menu, it's also just right there. You can just jump right into it. If you go in for the first time, you play a couple of tutorial missions just to give you a feel of the different classes, and then that's where, not just the classes, but just the general mechanics. And especially, I think this is good because there might be some people who are just getting back into Ghost of Tsushima after not playing it for a while, so, might be a bit rusty, or you might have forgotten some of the other cool things that you can do, so they refresh you on that and then just teach you about the very specific things that each character class can do. Like, of course, the Hunter can fire stun arrows, the Ronin can summon a spirit dog that you can pet.
You can pet the dog in Ghost of Tsushima Legends?
Yes, you just press R2 right next to it, and here's the thing. If you're the Ronin and you summon the dog, you're not the only one who can pet it. Your party mates can also pet the dog.
Someone always has to be Ronin in your party composition. It is unacceptable.
You need a healer too. He's basically the Mercy of. He has a mass revive ultimate, and that's really cool. That's something we actually discussed on stream at one point. But nice. Yes, they put in enough work to make the classes distinct from one another, but still retain enough of Ghost of Tsushima's core combat mechanics, like the parrying and the sword fighting, to still give you enough leg room to work in a fight. Not just because, you're playing the support class, that means you're completely defenseless. No, the Ronin can still hold his own in a fight, so as the Samurai, Hunter, and Assassin, just with different stats all around. Like, of course, the Samurai is going to be tankier, right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, it does look like a blast to play multiplayer with your friends, and you did mention that you were done with the 2-player main storyline mission, still waiting on the 4-player, but Legends also gives us a pretty big single-player update as well. New Game Plus. Have you gotten to hop into that and give it a shot?
I am about to, but just reading from all the updates, like the changelogs. One, armor loadouts are like super important because during my first playthrough, and this is something that I didn't really complain about, but I'm just thankful that they added to the game anyway, the ability to, of course, have a couple slots of different loadouts where you choose your gear, your charms, which weapons to bring with you, and you can just swap them on the fly. And that comes in real handy because there are certain missions that would really be best dealt with if you kept on switching your equipment around and not just stick to one particular playstyle. And, well, I'm that guy that's stuck to one playstyle all around, so maybe I'll mix it up in New Game Plus. And, of course, the term New Game Plus is pretty important because, of course, you retain your equipment, your stats, your gear, well, except, I guess, the ones that are tied to story, the ones that you really have to earn through campaign progression. But for everything else, it just gets carried over. And for any game that includes that mode, or at least brings that in eventually as a patch, maybe sometime after everyone's done with their first playthrough, is always a plus. And it's free.
Yeah,
Again,
yes, it is free.
It's free.
And we have been raving about it. You personally have been raving about it. Someone who's played the Legends expansion. Is there anything that you could possibly pick out that they maybe could have done well or could have done better in this situation?
In this case, I guess they just need to iron out like server problems or some of the error messages that we've been getting. But as of my last play session, it is yeah, it's working out a lot better, and it's easier just to matchmake and form a party. Well, granted, I've only been playing with one other person for this footage, but considering that I'm getting less and less of the error messages compared to the last stream that I did, yeah, I think they're slowly working that out, and I hope that you know, it just gets totally stamped out. Sucker Punch has been doing some real good work. I'll hand it to them. And the very fact that they did say that the content that we have now, the current update, isn't really the end of it. They're going to be adding more as we go along. But you also got to consider that they're also banking on Ghost of Tsushima to have, let's say, a second life on PS5. So I guess that's the main reason why they're just pouring in so much support for this.
Yeah, and at that point, I wouldn't even mind paying a little bit for a DLC, just considering how much work they've already put in to a free update for Ghost of Tsushima. Now, we've heard about the New Game Plus, we've heard about the 2-player story co-op missions, and of course, the 4-player co-op missions. Now, Ghost of Tsushima Legends, final verdict, Billy. Recommended or not?
If you can find friends, and besides, the download is really manageable. Do play it. It feels like a whole new game on top of an already great game, and there is so much meme potential in this one, I gotta tell you. And okay, full disclosure, I'm actually in the middle of cutting a highlight reel from one of my recent sessions, and I can't stop chuckling at some of the shenanigans that we got into over it, that maybe I'll link you guys to some other time. But of course, you know, maybe just follow me on social media. It's so much easier.
There you go. Well, if you can't tell by Billy's literal childlike giggling from the enjoyment he's gotten from Ghost of Tsushima Legends, you get a very good recommendation from the Bonus Stage Plus. I personally haven't played it, but it looks freaking amazing, and I've heard nothing and read nothing but good things about Ghost of Tsushima Legends. So I'm glad that the trailer promised great things and delivered on them just as much.
Dare I say, I like it more than Avengers multiplayer.
Ooh.
It does the whole, like, you know, fight for loot and then take on harder missions for better loot, gameplay cycle / loop even better. And the fact that it doesn't really bog you down with all that much, and the interface is quite simple and just easy to understand, just really helps push that along.
Nice. Well, again, folks, there you have
And
it.
it's
The game
free.
showcase of today, the free update to Ghost of Tsushima, of course, called Ghost of Tsushima Legends. It's out right now. Go update your consoles, go update your game. Only 10 gigs, and you get that much content for free. New Game Plus, co-op story missions, and even cosmetics and loadouts. It just sounds super awesome, Billy. Thank you.
And hey, if you can find me on PSN, let's play sometime. And of course, this has been Bonus Stage Plus. It feels kind of weird to be in the hot seat this time, but hey, thanks for helping me out with this, Renzo. Find me on the internet, and eventually you'll see that Ghost of Tsushima highlight reel at @it_burns, Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. It could be on any one of those channels. And if you want to follow the entire station, that is at 995PlayFM. Of course, Renzo, where can we find you on the internet?
It is at Renzosaurus, RenzoSaurus, all over social media. And thank you guys so much for watching another episode of Bonus Stage Plus.